All right, we're on another release soon, but you'll notice I'm a little bit more dressed up than usual. I have my t-shirt on, got a collar. What's going on, Ron? Why are you dressed up? Well, it's a day of victory. Victory being a couple weeks ago, I finally caught my white whale. Here he is. He's never getting away again. You can see the steel braided rope that I've got on him now. He can try, but he's not going far. Now, why did I just catch my white whale? Well, it's been 5 or 6 years since we've been brewing the Towpath'n Pale Ale. Pale Ale is just real basic style. It's been around for a long time. Nothing special to it, 5 to 6%, easy drinking, a little bit of hops, a little bit of malt, clean finish. I fell in love with Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale probably a decade or two ago. I used to buy it by the green box with 12 bottles in once a week because it was just such an easy drinker. And ever since we've been putting it out, I haven't been completely happy with it. It's by no means, it's not a bad beer. I mean, there's nothing really wrong with it, but there's just something that's just, it's not exactly what I want. How do we want to change it? So we have, over the last 5 or 6 years, experimented with yeast, experimented with hops, experimented with malt. You know, we started experimenting with the malt because I thought the finish was just a little too malty. I didn't want that. I wanted crisp, and that's it. So we experimented with different malts and different temperatures of mashing to favor less unfermentable sugars. I didn't seem to change it, so we experimented with hops. You know, Cascade, we occasionally sub Chinook or some other sea hop, but it was the same. We even went to some local hop farmers, Baenum, Barnyard Talk, to get their Cascade, and sometimes it would work, but then sometimes it wouldn't. Then we'd go back to the big boys, YCH, get their Cascade, but then there was no change. And we just couldn't pin this down consistently. So what finally happened is we released a double New England here. Well, we didn't release it because it didn't turn into a double New England. A lot of brewers, you've probably noticed, you pick up a off-the-shelf double New England or a New England and it's clear. This is what happened to us. Luckily, we caught it before packaging, way before packaging. It was done fermenting, we cold crashed it, and it went clear. We're like, this ain't supposed to happen. Luckily, the labels weren't in production yet. They were proofed, they weren't in production. So we're like, how can we fix this beer? We can't put this out as a New England because it's clear, but it's got this soft hop profile like a New England would. How do we get some bitterness in there? So we started experimenting with some water chemistry, and usually in about a third of our beer styles, we tweak the water chemistry. We'll add some gypsum, which is calcium sulfate, into the mash. It gives some more calcium to the mash. It does some pH stuff. It's in there anyway. For our New Englands, we add some chloride to it to soften it up, to accentuate the soft mouthfeel, because you want that sulfate to chloride ratio in a certain way. So to this New England that went clear on us, we're like, all right, let's add some gypsum. So we did that, tasted it. All the brewers were sitting around here, we had a meeting. Can we affect the perceived bitterness with some water chemistry post-fermentation? And lo and behold, we did. And that's what happened to Proxy Hero. And you guys rated it pretty well. I believe last time I checked, it was right around a 4.0, maybe a little less, a little more, but you guys thought it was solid. So we're like, hey, can we take this a step further? And we upped the amount that we added to our Towpath into the mash. And usually we had this amount the last bunch of years. This time we just took a jump. We just like multiplied it. So it was a lot more minerals that contributed to the sulfates, which got that sulfate to chloride ratio a lot bigger, which gave it more of a perceived bitterness, and most importantly, a crispiness at the end, real crisp finish, and then it's done. It kind of pushes the malt back, which is the problem I've been having for the last 5 or 6 years. So we did that, and in this case, we used Baenum hops. They're a local hop farmer, and we also use Westbranch malts. And so, along with that, the ingredients, like I said, it's a super easy beer style. I'm not sure if, I don't know. I'd like to just drink everyone's pale ales for a month because I think it's a difficult style to really get right. I remember having a Nelson hopped pale ale that Larry Reuters made from the Sauce Homebrew Club. He's an excellent brewer, won lots of awards, and it floored me. And it's because it's such a delicate balance, and it's the minerals, the water chemistry that really brings the stout together. So, pale ale malt, we've got a little bit of Crystal 20, and we got Carapils for head retention. Now in this case, we're not using pale ale malt, we switched it to Pilsner, which is a little bit lighter malt. And the reason was, this is kind of a COVID-inspired beer, because I remember I was in the car wash, and I got a call from Westbranch Malts. Hey, you guys looking for some extra malts, extra super sacks? And we usually use Breeze. And I'm never one to easily just switch all the grains around because there's really not a lot of time for experimentation. So I like to use what I know. We've been using Breeze forever. And he's got about 6 super sacks, which is 6 times 2,000, about 12,000 pounds of grain. And he told me that there was a brewer that was all lined up to take all of these, but COVID happened, a lot of production got ramped down, and he was stuck with all of this Pilsner malt. So I'm like, yeah, you know what? We use a lot of Pilsner. We'll take it off your hands. He offered me a great price, so we got it. And that's what we've been using in our seasonal series. So the Raspberry Light, the Irish Red Light, and now the Towpath'n Pale Ale. So Westbranch malts and Baenum hops. Now, what is not on the label is we used our second crop of Akron Canal Place grown hydroponic hops, Alfaroma and Chinook. We put about 6 pounds of these wet hops at the very end of the boil just for a little bit more character. Now, we couldn't get it on the marketing because when you're growing hops, they don't give you like a warning, hey, 3 to 4 weeks, we're gonna be ready so you can start your brew. No, they're like, we're gonna be ready next week. So we're like always scrambling, okay, what beer can we put it into that's not a stout that will kind of highlight some of the characteristics of this wet hop? And our grower thought it was a little bit too early to put it in the Towpath, but he did a couple of moisture analyses and he was like, hey, we can use this in the Towpath, and that's what I really wanted to do because it's like all local. So that was an additional cool component to this reformulated beer. Now, right now, we're doing another experiment on those same hop vines that produce this crop. Usually, hop growers, they grow outside, they grow for the summer, you harvest them, cut them down, and then they regrow next year. We're trying to get a second harvest off of the same vines. So this was our hop growers' idea. We've been doing a few experiments, so we're gonna see how that goes. Currently, they're starting to grow. We put them into a light cycle that'll start producing hops soon. So that's exciting. So there's a lot to this beer. So instead of me yipping anymore, let's give this a try. Keeping an eye on him. Not getting away again. A pale ale of all things. A pale ale is what I can't do, or I couldn't do. Look at that perfect color. Look at that pale ale color. Oh, and the aroma is so perfect. The hops just come straight through. When we used to brew this before we reformulated this, I got this malty component that it never ever sat well with me. Now we get that Sierra Nevada type character. Now, I should have just bought some Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, send it in for a chemical analysis and reverse engineer it. But we don't do that here. Would have saved a lot of heartache. And that is awesome. I would have liked to have it a little bit colder. This one you can't get too cold because it's one of those refreshing beers, but I was screwing around with the whale kept getting away. So that warmed the beer up, but it is even warm. As a beer warms, you can kind of get its certain flavors that are in the background will come out. You can kind of notice its flaws more. It's still delicious. It's a quaffer, large gulps. Perfectly clear. Now, I always like to drink pale ales out of Nonix or just regular pint glasses, tumbler glasses. And I know you guys have a ton of these sitting around. So these are the style of glasses you want in this, for whatever reason. I also like to drink it out of the can. So that is this review in a nutshell. And for everyone that's been drinking Towpath'n for the last 5 or 6 years, I know we've given you a few head-to-head sheets to fill out every so often on, do you like this recipe or this recipe? I think there's a Towpath'n 2.0 on Untappd. You can kind of look at that. That was a long time ago. All of your data over the years and your information, your Untappd ratings have come together and have made this a better beer. So we hope you come out this weekend for the re-release. So it's just going to have some limited distribution in the local NEO stores, the local Northeast Ohio stores, and it will be on draft in bars and restaurants. We're going to try to keep it on draft all year round and probably having some intermittent canning runs. So this is going to be a great summer beer. This is your Memorial Day beer. So definitely come on in and grab some up, and thanks for listening.